By the end of this video, I hope to persuade you that the Klondike Shuffle, when paired with the Australian Shuffle, can indeed achieve true magic. So I have here a deck of cards that we'll go ahead and shuffle. And if you were here, I would have you tell me how many times you would like the deck shuffled. I think we'll go ahead and just do it 3 times so that we're not spending the whole video shuffling cards here. Okay, so for this first effect, we need just 8 cards. So since we're talking about the Klondike Shuffle, a fun way to get an even number of cards is to just Klondike pairs to the table. Okay, so there we go, 6 and then 8. Okay, now if you were here, I would have you give me a number between, let's say, 1 and 4 for the number of Klondike Shuffles that we're going to perform on this packet to randomize it further. Now, since you're not here, we're going to use this 6-sided die, but I think we'll stick with numbers between 1 and 4 for the simple reason that it will just take too much time for me to perform 6 of these in a row. 5, well, we'll go ahead and break with what I just said. I think we can do 5. I just want you to know that I'm not engineering anything here. So let's go ahead and be brave and we'll perform 5 of these. Okay, 1, 2, okay, there we go. That's a Klondike, so that's our first one. Now, if you haven't seen the Klondike Shuffle before, you're just taking the top and bottom card off as 1. That's all you're doing. That's our second one. That's our third one. We're more than halfway. Okay, that's our fourth one. Oh, sorry, I'm dropping things. And here is our last one. Now, I want you to think about this. The die decided how many of these Klondike Shuffles to perform. So whatever the ordering of the cards is, it's really very much a product of this random event here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pair this Klondike shuffling with the Australian Shuffle. Now, if you have not seen this before, it's a fun one. It's also called the down-under shuffle. So how it works is you put the first card down, the next one goes under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down. And it will leave you with a single card at the end. Now, I don't know what kind of card this would need to be surprising in any way, to prove our point that the Klondike Shuffle paired with the Australian Shuffle indeed achieves magic. But let's just see what card is left at the end of this mixing routine. Ooh, okay. I wasn't even aware that there were jokers in the deck. I normally take those out. Do we have other ones in here as well? I don't see any. Do you? Okay, so that is the first routine. Now, we'll explain all of these routines as to why they work and how they work at the very end of the video. Okay, so that's routine 1. Okay, for our second routine, we'll go ahead and shuffle the deck again. If you were here, I'd have you tell me how many times you would like me to riffle shuffle the cards. We'll go ahead and just do it 3 times if that's okay, so that it doesn't take up too much of our video time here. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we need 2 piles of 8 cards each. Okay, so from this shuffle deck of cards, we're going to alternately Klondike pairs of cards to the table until we have 8 cards in each pile. I believe that's 6, and that should now be 8. Okay, and we can do a quick check to make sure we have 8 in each, but I believe we do. Yep, that's fine. And that's probably fine. Yep, looks just fine. Okay, now what I need you to do, now since you're not here, we're going to have to use a random event to make these decisions, but if you were here, I would have you tell me how many times should I Klondike shuffle each of the packets. So let's begin with this one. So maybe a number between 1 and 4 so that it doesn't take too long to shuffle this. So I'll go ahead and roll a die. Oh, we got 4. Perfect. Okay, so I'll go ahead and perform 4 Klondike shuffles. Okay, that's the first one. Now, if you haven't seen the Klondike Shuffle before, we're just taking the top and bottom card off as 1. And it's a very classy shuffle. Honestly, I've lost track. Was that 3? Well, we'll end up doing 4 or 5 because I was talking and I didn't keep track of the number there. Sorry. Now, what about this little packet here? Why don't we go ahead and roll? Just 1. Okay, that's what the universe told us to do. So we'll just do 1 Klondike Shuffle on this packet. Now, I want you to think about this. We started with a shuffle deck of cards, and then I simply created 2 piles of 8 cards each by Klondike shuffling pairs alternately into these piles. And then from there, we performed some random number of Klondike shuffles on each of the packets. Okay. Now what we're going to do to kind of prove our point about the amazing connection between the Klondike Shuffle and the Australian Shuffle, we're going to perform the Australian Shuffle. And it's going to lead to a single lone surviving card. There'll be a single card in our hand. And that will be a card of interest to us, considering that it survived all of this mixing. So the Australian Shuffle, how does that work? Well, this is where the first one goes down, then under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down. Okay, this card is the remaining card from that process there. Let's go ahead and perform the same Australian Shuffle on this one. Down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down. Okay, here is the lone surviving card for the second pile. So what did we end up with? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the first. Oh, not again. We got the Joker again. So if you've seen routine 1, we've already seen the Joker joking around. Well, what did we get for the other card? What? A double back card? How did... It's the Joker, of course. He truly is joking around here. I don't know how he slipped this double back card into the deck, but he did. Boy, oh boy, what a jokester. Okay, so that is the second routine. And so we're going to go on to the third routine in this little video. Okay, moving on to our third routine. We should shuffle the deck a few times again just to make sure these cards are not in any particular order. Okay. I know we've done 3 in the past. Maybe we'll go ahead and just do a 4th one. We really just want these as mixed up as possible here. Okay, very good. So what we're going to need for this one is we're actually going to need 4 piles. We're going to need 4 piles, okay? So a cool way of getting 4 piles is to use the alternate Klondike. And this is where we Klondike pairs to the table, and we'll do that to create 4 piles. Here's the beginning of the 4 piles, and then we can go around and just build on top of those. And now we have 4 piles of 4 cards, 4 piles of 6 cards, and just one more layer, 4 piles of 8 cards. Okay, very good. Boy, we used up a good portion of the deck there to create those. Okay, so we have these 4 random piles of cards, And we're going to do the same sort of thing that we did for the last two routines. We're going to mix each of these randomly, and we'll do it by way of the Klondike Shuffle and use it however many times you would like us to use it, or since you're not here, we'll use this six-sided die to decide it. So why don't we focus on this one right here? How many should we perform? 6 of them. You've got to be kidding me. Okay. That's one. So maybe you can you help me keep track of how many I've done? Especially when speaking with you, it's easy to kind of lose track of, where am I? I think that's the third one, so we're more than halfway there. That's the fourth. Now, I want you to think about how the cards are being permuted, being moved around, okay? And so the number of Klondike Shuffles here, it's making a difference. I believe that's 6 of them. Okay, so let's just pray to high heaven we don't get 6 again. Oh, we got a 2. Much nicer, okay? But the key is it came by way of a random process, okay? So I am in no way influencing the process here, okay? This is just a standard die. Okay, that's 2 of them, I believe. 5, a little bit better than 6, I suppose. Okay, 1, 2, better not count, otherwise I'll think that's the number of times we performed it. Okay, here comes the second Klondike Shuffle. And the third, more than halfway there. A couple more, then we're done with this pile. And, okay, I think that's 4. I want you to think about the difficulty, even if a person kind of knew where like certain cards are in any of these piles, would you be able to track them while we're performing this random number of Klondike Shuffles? I don't think so. I think that would be tremendously hard. We got back to 2. Okay, 2's nice. So we can finish this before Christmas here. That's 1. And here's the second one. Okay, well, the Klondike Shuffle has been doing all of the work, but the Australian Shuffle has to do the heavy lifting, because what it's going to do is it's going to lead to a single card at the end of that shuffle. And then we're going to take a look at, boy, what card did the Australian Shuffle bring to the top after these random numbers of Klondike Shuffles were performed. Okay, so down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down. Okay, here's the first one. What could that card possibly be? Who knows? Okay, down, under, down, down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down. Here's the second one. Okay, we call this a lone survivor. It's the one that survives this very very convoluted process, by the way. The Klondike Shuffle, the Australian Shuffle is a shuffle that just kind of destroys the structure of about any packet, actually. Yeah, that truly is the case. I'm just hoping that I performed it correctly, otherwise we're not going to really find out if the Klondike Shuffle is the amazing shuffle that we think it is. Okay, well, let's take a look at these 4 lone survivors. So what's the first one? Ooh, that's nice. An ace of hearts. No way. Ace of clubs. There's no... I can't believe it. Ace of spades. You know what the chances of this is? I mean, if you just think about it. And the last one, oh, I cannot believe this. All of those random processes led to the revelation of the 4 aces. How in the world is that possible? Well, we're going to find out when we get to the tutorial portion of this video. Okay, so that is the third routine. Okay, and I probably need to mix these cards here. I want to make sure I don't put in the Joker or something silly like that. Okay, so let's mix these cards. In fact, I think, oh, I'm sorry, I'm dropping them everywhere. Why don't we kind of shake things up a little bit. Yeah, the Riffle Shuffle does a good job. It truly does. If you do, enough of them, and if you don't do perfect ones, a perfect Riffle Shuffle can be used to control cards, right? You can, in fact, 8 perfect shuffles will reset a deck to its starting order. Actually, that's something that's been proven, actually. So 8 of them. Okay, so there we go. So that's called a table wash, by the way, what I just did. Okay, so what we're going to do here that's a little bit different is I'm going to choose a, quote, prediction card. Okay, so what that means is I will go ahead and look at the cards and then choose I don't know, a card that kind of speaks to me or feels like it's going to be part of our future here in just a few minutes. So if you were across the table from me, I would just turn the deck and have it face the cards facing me and choose a card, and then without rearranging any of the cards, just set the deck back down. Well, since you're not across the table, I'll have to go off camera for a second to choose my special card. So I'll go off camera just for a second and choose my card. There you go. That was pretty fast, wasn't it? That's great. Okay. So now what we're going to do here is, and I guess I should point out, I could actually riffle shuffle this now if you wanted me to, or as some people prefer that it be left the way it was because it's already been table washed. So maybe we'll do that. We'll just leave it the way it is, but just know that I could riffle shuffle this as many times as you like, if that would allay any suspicions there. Okay, so this time we actually need twice as many cards, but we'll just go with one pile this time. We're going to Klondike 16 cards to the table, okay? So just going to be 8 pairs. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we have 16 cards now. Okay, it's a little more interesting, just given the number of cards. And we can go ahead and randomize this further. If you were here, I'd have you make that important decision. But you're not, so we'll have to go ahead. Oh, that went off. Oh, no, it didn't. I thought it went off the camera. So it's a 2. You saw a 2 there. Okay, and that's nice because we don't want to take too long randomizing this random packet of cards. Okay, so 2 of these, 2 Klondikes. Okay, so I'm just taking the top and bottom cards off as 1, setting those down. Okay, that's the first, quote, Klondike Shuffle, and the universe here has told us to do just 2 of them and then stop. And so here we go, we're getting kind of close. Okay, very good. Okay, that's the second one. Okay, once again, the Australian Shuffle has to do well, in some ways, the clever part. But we only need to perform 1 Australian Shuffle. But boy, is it essential. Okay, here we go. Down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down, down, under, down, under, down, down. Whoa. I just really want you to focus on, boy, all of the mixing and movement of cards. And as I mentioned in the previous routine, the destructive nature of the Australian shuffle. And that is a true mathematical statement. It is one of the most disruptive shuffles, systematic shuffles invented, actually. It's a bad one for destroying order of a packet or a deck. Okay, well, where has that brought us? 6 of clubs. Does that have any meaning to you? I don't... Oh, wait a second. We have a prediction card, right? Remember that? I chose a prediction card. I chose a card that just kind of jumped out. When I looked through the deck, it's like, oh, pick me, pick me. So what did we get here? What was the prediction card? It's the companion card to the lone survivor. How was I able to sense that this card would have some connection in the end to this one? After all of that mixing, randomization, and selecting of a single card by way of the Australian shuffle. Whew, how did we do that? Well, we'll find out in just a few minutes. We're getting closer. Okay, for our 5th routine, we're going to go ahead and create 3 piles, actually, 3 piles of 8 cards each. In fact, the name I give this routine is Crazy Eights, because if you think about it, just about all of the packet sizes that we've been working with, except for that last one, that one exception of, 16 cards I believe we had, all of the packet sizes have been 8, okay? So I call this Crazy Eights, okay? So what we're going to do here is we're going to, well, let's see. I wonder if I need to get a prediction card. And I don't know what people would prefer that I do. Create our piles first and then get the prediction card, or the other way around. Maybe I'll go ahead and just get that out of the way. I'm going to choose a, quote, prediction card. Now, as before, I have to just go off camera for a second to grab that, because it's not much fun if you see the prediction card. Yes, that's a good one. I can just kind of feel that. That's a good one. Okay, that's a very good one. Okay, great. So here's our prediction card. And I suppose what we could do right now is, well, as before, when we did a prediction card routine, we could shuffle the deck further if you would like. Or there is some advantage to just leaving it the way it is, because we've already mixed the deck. It should already be randomized. So mixing it further might give you the impression that I'm somehow controlling the card. So we'll go ahead and just leave it the way it is. But just know that when you go to perform this, if the spectator would like you to mix the cards further, riffle shuffle it a few times, you could actually do that, and you'll be just fine. Okay, so what we need here is we're going to need 3 piles of 8 cards. Okay, 3 piles of 8. So we'll go ahead and just see. Now we have 3 piles of 4, and then 6, and then 8. Okay, hopefully I did that correctly. So we should have 3 piles of 8 cards each. As we've been doing with all of these routines in this, under this heading of Klondike plus Australian equals magic, we're going to randomly choose a certain number of Klondike shuffles to perform on these packets. And most likely it'll be a different number for each packet. Now, in actual performance, I could just have you, if you were here, tell me how many times to Klondike shuffle each. And you can do that when you go to perform this to a spectator. In fact, if you have 3 performers, that would be wonderful, because you can say, well, how many times do you want me to Klondike shuffle this one? So Bob, Mary, how many times should I do it here? And then Jennifer, how many times should I do it here? Okay, so there's a number of ways to kind of randomly get a number of Klondike shuffles to perform on each of these. So we'll use our little die to generate that. Oh, you can't see that. It went off. 3. Okay, so the first one, we're going to perform 3 Klondike shuffles. Okay, there's 1. And it's 2. And 1 more to go, and then we're done with that packet. 3. Very good. Okay, that one's mixed according to this random event. 5. Getting kind of big here. Okay, so this is the first one. Okay, try to pick up the cards. Now, if you're interested, look up the history. Hopefully I did that right. I'm not sure. It seemed like I did a big block of 4 there. But oh boy, I'm losing track of how many I've done. The history of the Klondike Shuffle as to where it came from. Okay, where did that name come from? Because it's quite interesting. Okay, well, you have the advantage of rewinding the video to know how many I performed. Did I do 3 or 4 already? No, I'm not sure. Maybe 4. So we'll do 1 more. Okay, I need to just be quiet while I do these so that I'm true to whatever this random event tells us to do. Okay, I'll focus this time. Oh, I will need to focus this time. There's 6 of them. Okay, focus those brain cells. 1, 2. Okay, this is halfway. 3. Now in practice, because that's 3 of them, we can stop. We can take a break there. I'll remember 3. In practice, if you want to maybe ask the spectator for a number between 1 and 4, that might be more sensible, so that you're not spending too much time randomizing these, because they're already coming from a randomized deck of cards. So, okay, I believe that's 5. All right. Okay, last one. Boy, oh boy, are you feeling tired? Man, I am. Okay, so here we are. Klondike Shuffle has done its job. Okay, so let's perform the Australian Shuffle on each and discover the lone survivor for each of these 3 piles. So down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down. There's the lone survivor for that one. Very good. We'll just toss the rest aside. Down, under. Here's the second lone survivor. And 1 more. We're almost there. Down. Okay. We have 3 lonely lone survivors. Well, I wonder if they're truly lonely. We'll find out in a second here. Okay, I think what we'll do maybe is actually take a look at our prediction card first. Okay, I think that might be a good way to go here. Oh, 8. Oh, I guess I did say that this would be called Crazy Eights. Remember that? Crazy Eights. Not sure why I would call it Crazy Eights, but wait a second. How did the other black 8 end up being the lone survivor after that random number of Klondike Crazy Eights? Okay, things are becoming clear as to why I thought to call this Crazy Eights. That is indeed crazy. How did we do that? And you can say we because the spectator is the one making some of the important choices, like how many Klondike shuffles to perform. Okay, And that very much will mix the cards differently, right? Depending on how many of those you perform. Okay, so that is the fifth and final routine. So let's take a look at how all of those work. If you're wanting kind of a deeper understanding of one aspect of this whole effect, it would be helpful if you've watched one or two of my other videos that talk about the lone survivor principle. And that relates to the down under and or the under down shuffle. The under down sometimes is phrased as she loves me not. And then the down under is the bona fide true Australian shuffle. Okay? Now there are some important general principles that relate to that shuffle about packet sizes and which card within certain packets will be the lone survivor relative to the down under shuffle. Okay? So the first idea is that a power of 2, okay, so 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, that packet size is very special relative to the down under shuffle. And why is that? Well, as shown in some of these previous videos that I've published, the lone survivor for a packet of 2 to the n, so a packet that's a power of 2, the lone survivor will always be the bottom card. So in this case, well, most of the cases here, we've been working with 8 cards. And then we had one routine with 16, which of course is still a power of 2. Okay, so maybe let's talk about that principle first. Now, I'm not sure if I want to or should review everything about that result, which I do talk about in previous videos. So here maybe what we'll do is we'll kind of demonstrate it to strengthen your faith. But if you want to see the derivation of that formula, then just look back at some of my videos on the Hidden Structures channel. Okay, so as you can see here, I have 8 cards. Now what I've claimed is because the packet size is a power of 2, it's 2 to the third, which is equal to 8, the bottom card is guaranteed to be the lone surviving card when performing the Australian shuffle. Okay? In fact, what might be fun to do is actually do it face, well, let's see, how should, yeah, we can do it this way. Why don't we have it face up? We'll do it like that. And then we can kind of see its movement. Okay? And I think that will kind of convince you enough that you can use it confidently. And okay, so let's go ahead and do it. Well, one thing to notice, I'm sorry, I'll probably end up reviewing some of the mathematics here, but if you think about the down under, which positions initially will be discarded? Well, the very first card goes down. It's like gone. And then the next one goes under. And then the third one goes down and it's discarded. And the fourth one goes under. So the first sweep through will eliminate the odd position cards, 1, 3, 5, 7, leaving the cards that were originally in positions 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, so that's kind of an interesting thing to first observe. And then we're going to sweep through it again. And the same principle applies, namely the odd position cards for that second round through will get discarded and the even position cards will be kept. Well, as you can test and check for yourself, what that will mean in the case of 8 cards, which is what we have here, that bottom card, the 8th card, will be the lone surviving card. Okay, so we've gone through the packet fully once, and now we're going through it a second time. Let's see, what did I do? I think this one goes down. I'm kind of losing track here. And then that one goes down as well, which would leave us with the Jack of Hearts. Okay, so I may do that again because I kind of talked through it there. And so it's down, under, down, under, down, under, down. So those are all the original odd position cards. Now this last card was put down, and I haven't put the next card under yet. So this would go under, down, down, under, down, and there you go. The 8th card is the lone surviving card. Now this will work for 16 cards or 32, any power of 2. The bottom card is always the lone survivor. Okay, so that's like principle 1 that drives all of the effects, all 5 routines that I've shown you today. Okay, so just focus on the fact that the bottom card of the packets that we've been working with will be the lone surviving cards. Well, I think with that understood, with a little bit of thought, I think you can figure out the rest. Okay, now I'll step you through it, but I'll bet you if you pause the video and just gave yourself a few minutes to think about now the Klondike Shuffle and what it does to the ordering of a packet of cards, I think you'll begin to see, oh, I see how it works. There's 2 principles at play here. There's something special about the Klondike Shuffle relative to the bottom card of any packet. And then we know there's something special about the bottom card of a packet of 2 to the n cards relative to the Australian Shuffle. Okay, so for example, so let's go ahead, we can use the Joker if you would like, just for fun here. Okay, so I'm going to put the Joker on the bottom. Let's see, we can have it face down, or face out. But so here is the first effect, and once you see the key to this one, it unlocks all 5 routines. Okay, so I began routine 1 with the Joker at the very bottom. Now I'm hoping I didn't flash that during the video. Very possibly I did. You know, sometimes I don't know what angle I'm holding things relative. So you guys are seeing this direction. Spectator is normally over here, right? They wouldn't see things. But you may have spotted something that you weren't supposed to see. So I apologize if you did. That was my fault. So for instance, when I go to do a Riffle Shuffle, if I turn this a little bit too much, you're going to see the bottom there, right? So you may have seen it, so I apologize. But when performing this to a spectator, you know, just make sure you have the cards kind of tilted away a little bit so they can't see the bottom card. Well, we need the Joker to be on the bottom and stay on the bottom until we get to the Australian Shuffle. Okay, well here what we're doing is we're just retaining the bottom stock. That's the official phrase when performing a Riffle Shuffle in which you're keeping certain cards at the bottom, okay? So here we just need to keep 1 card at the bottom, which is fairly easy to do. To retain 1 card at the bottom is not too hard. And so if you haven't seen this before, what you do for the Riffle Shuffle is you just, you know, break off a certain number. So it can be helpful to break off more than half because we're going to let a bunch of cards on the left fall first. So maybe, you know, we need at least 1 to fall first, which it has. And then from here you can let the remaining cards intermix or interlace themselves however they may. Okay, so I just need to make sure that first one falls, and then the others can fall left, right, in whatever, you know, order they naturally do, given how you're kind of holding the cards and the pressure you're applying to each side of the deck. Okay, so just make sure that left hand bottom card falls first. Okay, so just retain it on the bottom. So there it is, it's still on the bottom. Okay, now think through what I did next. I explained that we would need a packet of 8 cards. Now, since we're talking about 2 special shuffles and the magic they achieve when combined, we're going to go ahead and just use the Klondike Shuffle to get 8 cards. And the Klondike Shuffle is a nice shuffle to use to get an even number of cards because we're pulling off cards in pairs. So here, you're pulling off the bottom and the top. Well, think about that. So the Klondike Shuffle, no matter what the packet size is, will always have what we call a fixed point. A fixed point. Now, a fixed point is something that remains unchanged, or it remains where it started. Okay, so maybe in the process of moving things around, a certain card gets moved right back to where it started, okay, given a certain process. And so we would say that process has a fixed point, and then it would be whatever card is being left where it originally was. Well, the bottom card for any deck or any packet of cards is a fixed point relative to the Klondike Shuffle. And I think that's probably readily apparent, right? Because since we're pulling off the bottom and top, the bottom will always stay on the bottom, okay? And it doesn't even matter how many cards we have here, right? Because now we're just stacking additional cards on top, okay? Now we need 8 cards for this, and the reason for that is because the Australian Shuffle will reveal the bottom card of a packet of 8 cards. Okay, so that's the lone survivor principle. Okay, so we have 8 cards, the bottom of which, of course, is your joker. Okay. Now, if you think about it, I said, well, let's kind of randomize this packet further. Now, it would be the case that the cards are, quote, being sufficiently mixed. To say randomized is a strong word to use in its technical sense. But, the cards are going to be mixed in general when you kind of perform some kind of shuffling or mixing procedure multiple times, unless that procedure has a fixed point, or it has a position that when the packet is put through a certain number of those shuffles, after doing it, let's say 3 times, it always returns a certain card to its original position. Okay. Now, in the case of the Klondike, the bottom card is always a fixed point, no matter how many times you perform the Klondike Shuffle. Well, that is tremendously valuable because you can truly ask for a random number of Klondike Shuffles to be performed. The other cards in the packet, besides the bottom card, are just moving around or being permuted in fairly unpredictable ways, certainly unpredictable for the spectator. Okay, but that bottom card just stays put. It's happy at the bottom, and it's going to stay there throughout all eternity if you perform repeat Klondike Shuffles. Okay, so it actually doesn't matter how many we do. So 6, that's a lot of them. Well, for each and every one of those, the joker stays on the bottom, right? There it is, okay? So you can do this till the cows come home, and we haven't upset the fact that our special card is exactly where we need it to be, namely at the bottom, okay? And then once you've performed this, quote, random number of Klondike Shuffles, you can go ahead and perform the Australian Shuffle, okay? And so the Australian Shuffle, it's called that for an obvious reason. It's because it's down, under, right? So you can do down, under, down, under, down, under, down. Okay? And you can even have the spectator. In fact, come to think of it, the spectator can do all of the mixing. As long as they don't make mistakes, they can actually perform the Klondike Shuffles, as many as they would like, so long as they don't make a mistake. especially for that first pair that they pull off. And they can perform the Australian Shuffle if you kind of guided them through, okay, down, under, and then all of the magic would happen right there in their hands is what would happen. I mean, which would be just amazing. But that comes with a risk that the spectator is going to make a mistake, drop the cards everywhere, or what have you. Okay, so we know what this is going to be. Because of the lone survivor principle for the down-under shuffle, we know that the bottom card of this packet of 8 cards will be the lone survivor. Okay, and so it will bring the joker to the top. Okay, so that is routine 1. Well, all of the other routines are very similar. Okay, they're just kind of extensions, really. I can't think of any of them as being genuinely different. I mean, they have little kind of twists and turns to them. So the second routine, if you remember, in the end, we had 2 piles at the end. Well, we had 2 lone surviving cards at the end. Do you remember that? And then, you know, we revealed the joker and go, oh, there's that joker again joking around. I wonder what this one is, you know. And you turn it over and it's this funny double back card. Okay. Well, how did we do that one? Well, you just start with these 2 at the bottom. That's all you do. Okay, you just start with those 2 at the bottom and put the rest of the cards there. So these need to be at the bottom of the deck. And then during your supposed randomization with the Riffle Shuffle, you need to make sure that you keep or preserve the bottom 2 cards at the bottom. Okay, so you have to make sure at least 2 cards on the left fall before you finish the quote Riffle Shuffle. Okay, and it's not too difficult to maintain 2 cards at the bottom. It really, if you just have to concentrate a little bit. Okay, now when you get up to 5, 6, 7, 8 cards that you're trying to retain at the bottom, that is dangerous. Very likely you're going to miss it. Most people would. Okay. Okay. So that's how we began with routine 2. Well, if you think about it, we said, well, we need 2 piles of 8 cards. Well, what did I do to get those piles? I did what's called an alternate Klondike. So this is where you Klondike a pair, so just to show you what's there, to the first pile, and then Klondike another pair to the second pile. Well, it's our double back card at the bottom, right? And then you go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until you get 8s in each, okay? And then you just, and then from there, once you have 8 in each, you can have the spectator decide, okay, how many Klondike shuffles to perform on this pile. You go ahead and do it. It will leave the bottom card where it is because it's a fixed point. Same thing here. You can perform a different number of Klondike shuffles, and it leaves the bottom card at the bottom where we need it for the Australian Shuffle. And then to finish it, you just say, well, boy, the Australian Shuffle, I feel sorry for it because it has to do the heavy lifting of really accomplishing, of proving our point here that these 2 together actually give genuine magic. Okay, so you perform the down under, and it brings the bottom cards to the top as the lone surviving cards, and then reveal that. Okay, and you'll reveal that the joker here on the left, and they'll go, oh yeah, that's kind of like the other one, and then they'll kind of wonder, they'll wonder what this one is. You turn it over, and it's a double back card, kind of a gimmick card. The kind of thing that a joker would do if he's messing around, right? So you just kind of make a fun little joke out of that, if you like. Okay, so that's routine 2. Now routine 3, if you remember, that's where we revealed the 4 aces. The 4 aces, okay? Well, I think you can get it figured out now, right? So what cards do we need to have at the bottom? Well, the 4 aces, of course. And it doesn't really, unless you want to reveal these in a certain order, it actually doesn't matter, the order of these 4 aces at the bottom, okay? So this one does require, a little bit of prep here, okay? And with with many of these, it's not too difficult to get some card of interest at the bottom. Like if you're mixing the cards, and then as you go through and kind of look at the cards, you can kind of, like if I want a 7 on the bottom, you just kind of go like that, and I moved it to the bottom. You can do something called culling cards, C-U-L-L-I-N-G, card culling, and that's where you like maybe you want this one on the bottom, so you slide it over, and then under the cover of the cards, you do this. Maybe we want the 2 on the bottom, and then you go ahead and you slide all of the remaining cards above that bottom card. You have to realize, they can't see anything, even though this is happening, right? They can't see anything. That's called culling, C-U-L-L-I-N-G. So you're going like that, and that moves it to the bottom immediately. Okay. Another one that we've shown you, if you go to the card handling playlist, I've shown you the Kelly Ovet master move. That's a fun way to get a card to the bottom. In fact, in some ways I should have used it here in this set of routines. So you break off a number of cards, you show them at the bottom, and if you've watched this before, as you go down, this is what I do. I go like this, I slide it over, and I want you to see what's happening there. And then all of that is completely hidden under your hand. No one in the front's going to see that. So it's a very powerful way of immediately moving a card from the middle to the bottom. Okay, so this is what it is right now. And then what you do is the remaining cards, they just get kind of slid right in here. They get slid right in here, and then you just close it off. So in less than a second, you can move a freely cut to card to the bottom. So you show them the card, and then as you're going down like this, these fingers slide that over. It's hard to do with gravity working against me, but this is really what's happening underneath. And then these cards are being slid right, they go right in, and then you just kind of close it off. So that's called the Kelly Ovet master move. So if you want to look at my card handling playlist, it kind of shows you that, it teaches that little technique. So anyway, wish I had thought about that before recording this, but anyway, I guess I was trying to avoid much in the way of card handling that would add another layer of complexity for you to perform these. Okay, so anyway, if we need the 4 aces at the bottom, okay, or whatever. The key is whatever cards you want to reveal in the end, the identity of the cards and the quantity of cards, just have those at the bottom. Okay, so if the spectator has a certain favorite card, then like Queen of Hearts or something, start with it at the bottom. As you're supposedly ostensibly mixing the cards, just kind of get that card to the bottom and then keep it there by way of riffle shuffling. Now this is going to be a little bit harder because we have to make sure 4 cards fall first on the left. Otherwise we're going to lose that prime location for those aces. Okay, so just make sure you have a good number of cards falling on the left first. Okay, and we'll see if so I retained them okay there. Okay, and then now think through. See, we're going to reveal 4 piles or 4 aces. Well, what do you do now? Well, you just do this alternate Klondike. Take the top and bottom. There's the first ace on the bottom. That's first pile, second pile, third pile, fourth pile. Now technically you've done the important step, but something called uniformity of action is pretty important. Meaning you don't necessarily want to do this and then suddenly like add to the piles to get 8 each, because people go, well, Why didn't you do that from the start? There was something special about that weird Klondike thing. So uniformity of action, what it does is it sets the spectator's mind at ease that, you know, no shenanigans are taking place. So you just perform the same thing. Every pile's treated exactly the same way. There's no favoritism here. I think we need 2 more if I'm keeping track. Okay, so you get 4 piles of 8 cards each, you know, and it looks like we do. And then you just square them up. And then just, you know, remember what's at the bottom. The 4 aces are at the bottom of these. Okay, and then because the Klondike Shuffle fixes the bottom card, it leaves it where it is, doesn't move it from its location at the bottom, you can perform as many Klondike Shuffles as you like, or the spectator calls for, right, for all of these. And then once you've done that, I mean, in the mind of the spectator, if they're free to choose how many times you quote Klondike Shuffle each packet, unless they already understand the properties of the Klondike Shuffle, they're going to just assume that since a different number of Klondike Shuffles were performed on these piles, that no one could have anticipated ahead of time what the resulting order would be. Now that is actually true, except for the bottom card. None of us, if we had known what's in these packets at the start, let's say we had perfect knowledge, but then we randomly choose a certain number of Klondike Shuffles to perform on each, you can't possibly know the ending order of this, because it will depend on how many Klondike Shuffles were performed. And if that is a unknown kind of future random event, then you could not possibly know anything ahead of time. And so I used a die as our randomizing element, okay? So it's only because the Klondike Shuffle leaves the bottom card right at the bottom that you have any knowledge about these 4 piles. Okay, so that's essential. And now, once you perform, you know, a different number of Klondike Shuffles for each, you perform the same down-under shuffle on all 4. Once again, uniformity of action. You're doing the same thing. You're treating each pile exactly the same way. Okay, and then you now know that for a packet of size 2 to the end, so some power of 2, the bottom card will always be the lone surviving card relative to the down-under shuffle. For routine 4, what we did there was a little different. It started differently. We actually did a table wash. You remember that? You can have the spectator do this. And this is where you genuinely don't know anything about the order of the deck or where cards are. You really don't. And you don't need to for this to work. Okay? So you could have the spectator do this. You can just have them kind of mix the cards. Now, one thing you'd want to watch out for, which I almost did, and when you're straightening these up, don't straighten them up this way with the bottom card facing the spectator. That would not be good, because this is going to be an important card, right, in the performance. So when you're kind of, you know, straightening those up, just make sure you don't, quote, flash the bottom card. You don't want the spectator to see the bottom card. Okay, so for routine 4, there's 2 things that were different. We went with a prediction card, so that was different. And we also went with a packet of size 16 instead of 8. Well, 16 is going to work just fine for us because it's a power of 2. And the Australian Shuffle, when performed on a packet of size a power of 2, the bottom card will be the lone surviving card. Okay, so this is a freely shuffled deck, and then you just tell the spectator, okay, I'm going to, you know, without changing the order of anything, I'm going to choose a, quote, prediction card. Okay, so what you would do is turn the deck towards you, so you don't let the spectator see that. Now what I had to do in the performance, because of the angle of the camera here, I had to actually go off camera to do this selection. Otherwise you would see kind of what I'm doing. But in a real performance, all you have to do is just, the spectator's over here, right? So you just tilt the cards towards you. They can't see the faces of the cards. And then you just tell them, I'm going to find a prediction card, And you could even do kind of a false choice here at first. You can go, okay, that's a good, wait, no, I don't feel good about that one. How about this one? I think that one feels a little bit better to me. Okay, so you make it out as if you're not 100% sure about your prediction card, but you went with the one that just seemed to kind of speak to you or stand out as potentially important in the future. Okay, so once you have your prediction card, which will just be the companion card to the bottom card, right? Some of the rest of it's the same, because now you can ask the spectator, okay, how many times would you like me to riffle shuffle the cards? Oh, and I just flashed the bottom, so don't do that. So how many times would you like me to riffle shuffle the cards? Okay, and they can say some number of times. That would be just fine. And then you're just retaining that 2 of spades on the bottom. So just make sure the left-hand pile, that first card at least, falls first. Okay, very good. Okay, and then from there, what we did was we said, well, instead of working with just 8 cards, which isn't a very big packet size, why don't we work with 16? That's a good number. It's double 8, I guess. So make it out as if it's just kind of randomly chosen 16. Okay, but it isn't. you need 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and so forth. For the bottom card to be the lone survivor relative to the Australian shuffle. Okay, and so here what you would do is just deal out 8 pairs. Okay, so maybe let's see, 2, 4, 6. Okay, so, and you can kind of do it in a messy manner, really, because once the bottom card is down, you're safe. It almost doesn't matter if the others kind of get jumbled up or something, or dropped a little bit. In fact, that would add to the, wow, he couldn't possibly know anything about these cards, because he's just kind of almost making a mess of it. Okay, so now we have 16 cards with our special card at the bottom. And as we've done before, you can have the spectator dictate how many Klondike shuffles to use to just randomize this packet further. And I used a die. Oh, just one. So you'd perform that many Klondike shuffles to the table. Of course, it's going to retain the bottom card at the bottom. And so once you've performed all of those to the satisfaction of the spectator, you would then say, okay, well, the whole point of this little routine is to show you the magic that occurs when you combine these 2 amazing shuffles. So we're going to finish now with the Australian shuffle, and it's called that because of the procedure. It's because you do a down, under, and so forth. Okay, so you go through and do this. In fact, what you might find is, as long as you keep track of what you're doing, saying down, under for a packet, the whole time for a packet of 16 cards is going to get a bit tedious. So, you can just kind of say it under your breath or something so that, you don't mess up. And you can say, wow, just think back. And it's never a bad idea to, before like the reveal, to just review things quickly with the spectator and say, okay, well, let's think about this. We started with a shuffled deck of cards, which is not quite true, but almost true. And I shuffled it as many times as you told me to, which that will be the case. And then from there, we just needed 16 cards. We just kind of chose 16 to work with. That's true. And we decided to use the Klondike Shuffle to get these 16, because it's a great way to get an even number of cards. And then from there, we had this packet of 16, and you, the spectator, decided how many Klondike shuffles to perform to randomize the cards further. That was completely out of my control as to what you chose there. And then once we did that, we performed this most amazing Australian shuffle, which always results in a single card at the end. We call it the lone survivor. And so that's where we are. That's where we are right here. So where did that bring us? Oh, 2 spades. And then at this point, you can, kind of puzzle and maybe look a little bit confused, like, okay, is that supposed to mean something to me or you or somebody? Okay, because, the spectator's not going to think that's a special outcome there. And then you almost feign a flash of recollection that, wait a second. I chose a prediction card, right? You remember that? I chose a prediction card at the very beginning. Okay, and it was one that I just felt like would be important to us here in the future. What was that card? No way. That's right, I remember now. I chose a black 2, and it happens to be the companion card to the lone survivor. How in the world did we do that working together? And you once again remind the spectator that they made many of the important choices. In fact, most of them, actually. Okay, so that's routine 4. Okay, for routine 5, there is just a little bit of setup. That's the one that's called Crazy 8s. Okay? And so what you need here is you will need 3 8s at the bottom of the deck. Okay? And it actually doesn't matter where the other 8 is. We're going to find it in a minute. That's part of the routine. But so you have the 3 8s. There they are at the bottom. Okay? And so this is where you kind of begin, and you'll say, well, we're going to look at something that I call Crazy 8s. And if you think back to the other routines I just showed you, all of those were most of them, I guess, were packets of size 8s. And we did some pretty crazy things with those packets. So this is kind of a continuation of that. So just go ahead and, just shuffle this right in front of them, maybe while carrying on a conversation, or you can have them dictate, I'd like to have you perform, 4 riffle shuffles or whatever it might be. Okay? But you just need to maintain the 3 bottom cards at the bottom. Okay? So, and that's not too hard to do. Much more than 3 is getting a bit hard. It's easy to miss it. Okay? So here we have the 3 8s at the bottom. Okay? So they've just seen you mix the cards, and now you tell them, well, for this effect, we need something called a prediction card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just look at the deck and find a prediction card, but I'm not going to change the order of any of the other cards. Okay, that's important. Okay. And now, as I've mentioned in the previous routine, with a spectator across the table from you, you would just turn, tilt the cards towards you. Oh, wow. The 8's on top. Maybe. Let's put it down here. Very likely it would not be the top card. And so you would tilt it towards you and then go through and say, well, I'm just trying to find a card that speaks to me. And you can even overshoot it here. So, there it is. You go, how about this one? And they, you could even put it down, then pick it up again and go, there's one here that for some reason it just felt a little bit better. I think that's a better one. Yeah, let's go with that one. Okay, so this is your prediction card right here. And of course it's going to complete the set of 8, right? Okay. So you have your prediction card, and then you can point out that you haven't rearranged any of the other cards after the deck had been randomized. And that's kind of important. And then you tell the spectator, okay, well, we need 3 piles of 8 cards each for this. So let's go ahead and just, Klondike Shuffle. So of course, what's going to happen here, right? As you pull those off, the 8s are going to be positioned right at the bottom. And then, for the sake of uniformity of action, you just repeat this until you have 3 piles of 8 cards each. Okay? Okay, so from here it's just going to be similar to all of the other ones. So I have 3 piles where the cards of interest are at the very bottom, and then you allow the spectator to decide. Now, you could give them the choice of not mixing these as well, because from what they understand, these truly should be random piles of cards here, because they saw you mix the deck. So you could say, would you like me to Klondike Shuffle any of these piles further to just scramble them? Okay? And they might say, yeah, this one. Maybe Klondike Shuffle that one 3 times. That would be good. And so you just go through and perform the Klondike Shuffle 3 times. And of course, it'll leave the 8 at the bottom. And the same thing with the other ones. They may choose to leave one of these alone, which is just fine. Okay? Now, once you've mixed the cards according to the request of the spectator, then you can say, well, primary reason for us working through this little exercise together is to show you that there's this special synergy that comes from combining the Klondike Shuffle with the Australian Shuffle. In fact, the claim is it achieves true magic. Okay? So let's go ahead and just perform the Australian Shuffle on each one of these, and that will always result in a, quote, lone survivor, a single card at the end. Okay, so let's do down, under, down, under, down. Okay, there's the final card. That's what we call the lone surviving card. You can get the lone survivor for the second pile. So down, under, down, under. Okay, there's the lone survivor for pile 2. Just one more pile to go here. So down, under, down, under, down. Okay, and I'm dropping the cards there. Okay, and then at this point, you could, quickly review and just remind the spectator of what was done to bring the 2 of you to this point, right? You started with this shuffle deck of cards, and then as the performer, I took the cards and I just chose a prediction card, one that just felt like it would be relevant to us in the future. And then we created 3 piles of 8 cards using the Klondike Shuffle, which is kind of a fun way to do it. And then from there, I gave you the choice to mix any of these piles further if you wanted by, performing any number of Klondike Shuffles, which would, really just scramble the cards further. And then from there, we performed the exact same thing on each of the 3 piles. We carried out the Australian down-under shuffle, and that always results in a single card at the end. A lone survivor is what we call it. So let's go ahead and just take a look at our prediction card. You show them that, and go, oh, that's interesting. I did call this Crazy Eights, didn't I? The name of it. So there you go. And then you just show increasing, like, what the heck, surprise? Like, no, what? How? Because you've just reviewed the random procedures used to get to this point. So, just show some real surprise that I just happen to feel like I should take this one card out of the deck as important to us later, and the lone survivor for the first pile is also an 8. And then you just show greater and greater disbelief that there's no way this is an 8. You just kind of put your hands on your head like you're just frantically thinking through, how in the world is that even possible? As I think back to all of those steps, how could we have arrived here? How? And it's never a bad idea to really emphasize to the spectator the part they played in the whole thing. Their choices very much affected how the cards were being moved around. Okay? So anyway, that's crazy eights. That's just another way. But underlying all of these is just the interplay of a couple of principles. The first one is the Klondike Shuffle has a fixed point, and it's the bottom card of any packet. It can be an even-sized packet or odd. That bottom card just stays at the bottom. And then the Australian Shuffle has a special property relative to packets of size 2 to the n. So it's those two principles working together in this particular video today that produces the magic that will most likely take place in the mind of just about every spectator that you show this to. And the Australian Shuffle, because of the nature, the messy nature of that one, really does perplex the spectator as they try to kind of think through how those cards are being moved around in that system of discarding cards and then moving the remaining cards to the bottom, which cycle up through, some of which get discarded, some of which don't. How in the world could you possibly know which ones are going to survive all of that? Okay, so that lone survivor principle for the down under, it actually takes a bit of work to understand that in general, to actually prove a general formula for that, which I provide you in a couple of my earlier videos. So, so I hope you enjoyed that. Klondike plus Australian Shuffle, creating magic that is not too difficult for you to perform. There aren't too many steps here that you have to keep track of, and the only perhaps card handling skill that is helpful for these routines is the retaining of a bottom card or 2 or 3 throughout a riffle shuffle. But if that is difficult for you, then you can perform routine 4, where you begin with a truly randomized deck of cards. That's where we table wash them. And so there's no card handling at all. So the spectator's free to mix it as much as they would like. You just take the deck, look at the cards, and try to get a sense of what would be a good prediction card. Set that face down without changing the order of the other cards, and then move ahead with all of the normal elements that make up this most remarkable marriage between the Klondike Shuffle and the Australian Shuffle. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I encourage you to take a look at some of the other many videos on the Hidden Structures channel.